Having just replaced my brake pads, I think I'm going to go ahead and do a little brake bleed here, put some new fluid in. I'm using this DOT 5.1 stuff from Motorex. It's made in Switzerland, so you know it's sexy stuff. The 5.1 is what's known as an LMA, or low moisture absorption fluid. Similar in performance, I guess, to the silicone DOT 5.0, but the 5.1 is compatible with DOT 4, so we can go ahead and put this stuff in without needing to completely rebuild the brake system. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. First thing you've got to do, I'm going to do the back first, because doing the front I'd probably look like three monkeys making love to a football, so I'll just do it in the back where it's a little bit easier. You've got to get this bracket off, and I thought this is really stupid that this bracket has a little nubby on the top. I don't know why they put that there, but you've got to get the bracket off. So I pulled the bracket off and found that, yeah, pulled the bracket off, I found that the cap was loose, and so I guess that's why the nubby's on top of the bracket. But at any rate, we go ahead and pull all of this off, and very carefully, not to contaminate this with any dirt or anything, set it aside, and then we'll go ahead and top this off as close to the top, and then we'll start bleeding the brakes. What I've got here is little clear plastic hose that I've stuck over the bleeder nipple, and I've added a couple of ordinary clothespins to the end of it, and that way I can drop it into a receptacle, and the weight of those things will keep it from flopping around and everything as I go ahead and start doing the brake bleed. Okay. The process is pretty simple. We've got a 10 millimeter wrench that fits on the bleeder nipple here, and what we do is we press down on the pedal and then crack the bleeder, and you can see the fluid coming out. When it reaches the bottom, I close it, let the pedal back up, press again, crack it one more time, close it, rinse, lather, repeat. And what I'm watching for here at the reservoir is that I don't let the fluid get too low. And I just keep doing this until pretty much get to the point where I need to add some more fluid to the reservoir. And if I go through about 2 reservoirs worth of fluid, I've probably gotten most of the old stuff out. People in the know say you should do this every year. I've never met anybody that smart, so this is the first annual replacing of the brake fluid on my 3-year-old bike. You can see this doesn't take too long. You kind of get a rhythm going, and about 5 or 6 pumps gets me to the point where I probably need to add a little more fluid. Let me add just a touch more. The fluid starts out, the old fluid looks kind of honey colored. The new stuff is virtually clear. So once you can't see any more of that honey color in the reservoir, you know you're getting doggone close. Unfortunately, the lines on these bikes are short enough that a couple of reservoirs worth of fluid pretty much gets the job done. And you can also see that the fluid coming out of the little hose has gotten much clearer. And I need to add just a skosh more. And this time I'm just going to bleed it down until I'm at the max fill line. And then I'll go and do the front. couple more and I should be there. One more. And that about does it. Now I'm making sure to get this cap on nice and tight. Somebody once told me these things vibrate a lot. They could have been right. And then the bracket goes back in place like that. And of course, if your bike's not all tore down, there's a little plastic cover that goes over there and pop, on go the 2 bolts. Now something you ought to have is these replacement bolts from Eagle Mike. The stock screws that go into this reservoir are a Phillips head, and they strip out. Ask me how I know. And if they strip out, you've got to use a tiny little easy out. It's a pain in the butt. But Eagle Mike makes these nice little retrofit kits with countersunk Allen head screws. Real easy to work with, easy to get out. They don't strip like the Phillips ones do. Of course, if you're not a bonehead, you probably wouldn't strip them, but this just does make it a lot easier. We'll get the reservoir cap off of here, see what it looks like in there. Gently. Okay. And I don't know if you can see that. It's pretty dark and honey colored. It's time to replace that stuff. So I'm going to get set up here and do the front. Okay, the main point of this video on the front is to show you why you should have a buddy help you do this. Either that or you need to have a 6'2" wingspan. So we'll top this off with just a little bit more. Right up to the rim there. And then I've got to reach around and crack that. Close it, release the lever, squeeze, crack it, close it, release. And I just keep doing this, keeping an eye on that reservoir. Really not all that bad. A little camaraderie would be nice. As a buddy of mine says, it's always nice to have somebody to pull your lever for you. Now the caution here is if you run the fluid down to the point where you suck air into the reservoir, you've got to start all over and basically completely flush all of the air out of the system, which is a pain in the butt. So keep an eye on that reservoir there. And again, like the back, we're going to run 2 or 3 reservoirs worth of fluid through this thing. It's still coming out a little honey colored down at the bottom. The line, of course, for the front is a bit longer than the line at the back. And what I can see down in the bucket there is some pretty dark stuff. I think we pretty well run most of the reservoirs stuff through. There's a little bit, there's some dams and things down in the bottom of the reservoir that are holding some old fluid, but it won't hurt anything. You want to have your reservoir set as level as possible. Mine's a little cocked here. When you get the reservoir set nice and level, it's easier to set the fluid level within the reservoir. We're starting to get pretty clear stuff through here. I think one more shot and I'll top it again. The little can that you get is only 250 milliliters, but for a motorcycle it's plenty. If you go to the auto parts store and buy the stuff for a car, you'll get a pint or something like that, which is probably almost a lifetime supply if you do your annual thing every 3 years like I do. Okay, I think that is good and clear. So I'm just going to run this out. I think a couple more. I'm going to call that good, and go ahead and fill it to the top, to the max line. There we go. And of course now all I need to do is very carefully inspect this, make sure there's no grit or dirt or anything like that. Install this cap back on. Put Eagle Mike's cool little screws back in. And voila, I'm done. Now what I have left in that can I should probably discard, because by the time it's not that expensive, and even though it is a low moisture absorption formula, I probably don't want to keep it around and use it in another year when I do this, or especially in 3 years if I repeat this performance. There you have it.